So this here is going to be a painting video for some Blightlord Terminators that we have. So we're pretty happy with the way they turned out. The final products are ahead of you, and if you find that this looks good and you want to duplicate this kind of appearance, then feel free to stay tuned. Leave a like or a comment on the channel if you can, and subscribe if you find these kind of videos helpful. Otherwise than that, stay tuned and we will show you how we painted these guys. There'll be some photos at the end from all the different angles. You can see all the weapons and capes and things like that. Otherwise than that, we will see you in a few minutes when we start painting. So this is our painting video for our Blightlord Terminator. So this is actually a model from Lord Felth's cohort, but they're all going to be painted pretty much similar. It's a Terminator, very similar to our Plague Marine video, which we did previously, and I'll probably link it in the bottom. But this is going to be pretty straightforward. The first thing we did was cover the entire model in Death Guard green, and it was much easier to do once you use the spray can from Citadel. It matches the paint in the container very easily, so that makes it life simple. Then we're going to add our dry brush highlight like we usually do of Nurgling green, and we're just going to dry brush that all over the model as it stands here. So all over the armor, the arms, the shoulder pads, anything that's going to stay green, we're going to dry brush with the Nurgling green. So we'll do that and be back here in just a few minutes once that's finished. So this is our Blightlord Terminator now that we've done with the Nurgling green highlight. And as you can see, we've got some two-tone pattern on the armor, darker and lighter. And then when we add the shade, it'll blend it all together anyway. So for our next step, what we're going to do is take a little bit of Balthasar gold and start working on our trim. So all along the armor plates, all along the leg plates and the chin armor, all along the arms and gauntlets, any place where there is some trim that would normally be Chaos Marine trim, we're going to do it with the Balthasar gold. So we'll do that and be back here in a few minutes. So this here's our Blightlord Terminators now that we finished with all the Balthasar gold. So we did all of the trim all along the Cataphractii armor here, as well as any of the little globes that have been floating around, and the ones on the back as well. So we're going to move on from there and start working on these bony processes here. So each of those is going to go, well, bone colored. So it'll need a base of RAKARTH flesh, which makes a good skull base. So we'll do all these bony processes here. As well, we're going to do any teeth or anything like that, such as in this model here. Any of these little teeth here, or teeth all along the edge here, or teeth all along the shoulders. Just anything that would be bone or tooth or skulls, we'll do with the RAKARTH flesh now, and be back in a few moments once that's finished. So for our Blightlord Terminators, now that we've finished with the RAKARTH flesh bone processes that are here, and then one on the shoulder, and then on the other models as well. We've done all that, so now we're going to move on to the next color. And in this case, we're going to deal with this chainmail here. See the between the legs there, there's a little bit that comes out through the sides here, as well as the plague weapon here, the sword, as well as these little feeder tanks. Most of the details on the bolter will go metallic as well. We'll probably do the chassis of the storm bolter as well. We'll probably do that with a black or a brown. I haven't decided. We'll see. And then we'll do the metallics on it. Be back here. You will just see what we ended up doing. So we're going to do most of the metallics on these models now. We're going to do them with some Leadbelcher. And then we'll meet back here in a few minutes once all of that is done. Probably take 2 thin coats just to get the nice color that we want. So we'll see you in a few minutes there. So this here's our Blightlord Terminator now that we finished with the metallics. So we did the sword, as you can see, and we did the bolter. We actually did the stock with the ABADDON black, and then we did the metallics as well with our Leadbelcher. So with that all done, we're probably ready to shade the model. And so for that, we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade. We'll take that Agrax Earthshade here, and we're going to do all of the armor, and then all of the metals, the Blight Sword, as well as all of the shoulder pads, the Storm Bolter, the head and everything there. We'll do any bone processes, but all these tentacles and stuff we'll have to come back and do with another set of colors next. So we'll do that now. Be back here in a few minutes. Same thing with the other models here, all of the teeth and all of the bones. We'll do those all with Agrax Earthshade now, and be back in a few minutes. So this here's our Blightlord Terminators now that we finished with the Agrax Earthshade. And as you can see, the details came out very prominently now. We made a bit of a mess here, don't worry, because we're going to paint over all of that later. What we wanted to do is make sure we got all of the pits and all of the details on the armor and around the gold and the trim. So from there, we're going to move on to the tentacles on the top here. So those are very prominent. They're all along the back and as well as along the backpack, along the legs, things like that. So they're going to take a couple of series of colors. We're probably going to put a base of Bugman's Glow, maybe a shade of Reikland Fleshshade, and then probably a highlight layer of Cadian Fleshtone. That seems to be our thoughts now. So we'll do those now and see how it turns out. And we may even do some of these tubes here and any of the entrails and things that are hanging out of the models. Such as over here. You've got all these entrails coming down and inside there. So we'll do all that with the same shade, the Bugman's Glow and then the Cadian Fleshtone. So we'll do those now and see how it all looks and be back in a few minutes. So these are Blightlord Terminators now that we finished with the Bugman's Glow. And as you can see, we did the tubes and the vents on the front here. And then a few of the tubes on the back and the entrails. On this model, we did all of the tentacles. And on this model, we also did the tentacles here. Like so. So with all that done, we're going to add a shade to these. So we're going to do the Reikland Fleshshade, but you could also use the Carroburg Crimson if you like, just something dark and reddish, because we want to draw out all of the details on these tentacles here. So we'll do that now and be back in a few minutes. So this is our Blightlord Terminators now that we finished with the Reikland Fleshshade, and we've really kind of brought out some of the detail on these tentacles now. So our next step from there is to add a dry brush highlight over the top of them, and we're going to do that with some Cadian Fleshtone just to make that a bit more bright and fleshy. So we'll do pretty much all these tentacles here on all three of the models. So we'll do those now and be back here in a few minutes once that's all finished. This is our Blightlord Terminators after we've done with the Cadian Fleshtone. So as you can see, these tentacles are much more fleshy now. So what we're going to do from there is we're going to put a highlight on the bony processes. Now there's more on this model than that one there, but we'll do a dry brush of Screaming Skull on it just to brighten it right back up again. So we'll do that now, and then we'll be back in a few minutes once that's done, just to see how much brighter it can get. So we'll be right back with that. So our Blightlord Terminators are coming along. Now, because they're wearing Cataphractii armor, they have all these decorative strands coming down here, as well as on the bottom of the loincloth area. We're going to do all of those in red to match the Lord of Contagion that we're painting up. So we're going to do those pretty much the same colors we did before. We'll use a corn red base, and then we'll shade it with some NULN oil. And then we'll come back with another dry brush of corn red over that. And then probably a lighter red highlight, maybe Evil Sun Scarlet. So we'll do those three colors just to make it stand out, and be back here in a minute to show you how it turned out. So we'll do that now and be right back. So we're back to our Blightlord Terminators now, and we're finished with all of the cloaks. So we're going to come back and do these pustules here. There's a couple on the knee, as well as a few on the shoulder, a bunch of spots on all the tentacles that are here. So we'll do all of those now, And we'll do them with the Ungar Flesh as usual. Then add some Reikland Fleshshade over the top. And then a little bit of Ungar Flesh just to dry brush highlight over the center there. So we'll do those now and be back here in a few minutes once that's all finished. So our Blightlord Terminators all have this insect look on the chest piece here. Each one of the models carry that symbol. So what we're going to do there is paint that to match some of the other units in our army. So the moth image on the front chest piece of the Blightlord Terminator here, what we used for that was a little bit of Xandri dust. And then we came back afterwards with a little bit of Agrax Earthshade. And that created the dirty look here, as well as all the detail and shading that you can see, which matches the rest of the model. So with that, we'll wait for that to dry and be back here in a few more minutes. Now, many of our Terminators are holding weapons that have hilt. So in many cases, they're wood. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to take a little bit of Dryad bark, followed by a little bit of Gorthra brown, and we're just going to shade those in to give ourselves a nice wooden appearance. So our Blightlord Terminators are coming on quite nicely now. We're going to move on to all of the slime, all of the ooze that's here. There's some coming out the back of this, and some coming out the Plague Spurter here. So all of those areas, and on the other models, we're going to do a base coat of some Nibblet green here, followed by a highlight of Moot green, because it's just that little bit brighter. And then we're going to do maybe a dry brush of White Scar over the top, just to lighten up just an edge highlight and add some glistening. And then we may come back over the edge of that with something else. But we'll do those three right now, just to do up the slime and see how it turns out. So this here is our Blightlord Terminators now that we finished with the slime. And as you can see, there's a depth effect here, where some of them is brighter than the bottom. As you can see, it went from that Nibblet green to that Moot green and then up to some White Scar. So you got that dry brush at the top, and it really makes the edges pop there. So now with that done, we're going to move on to the eyes. So he's got sort of a single eye slit, but then these guys here have multiple eyes. He's got 3, and then this fella here's got 2. So we're going to make them shiny and green just to match the rest of the army. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to take a little bit of Stormhost Silver, followed by a little bit of Waystone Green, and that'll make them sort of gem-like, and that'll make them really stand out, so we'll be able to see them quite clearly. So we'll do those now and be back in just a few minutes. So our Blightlord Terminators look pretty good now that we finished with the eyes. So the last thing we're going to do in this model is the fumes coming out the back here. So in the incense burner here. So what we're going to do is bring back to white, and then start making it similar to the cloud of flies that we've done on a few previous models. So what we're going to do here is use a white first. So we're going to take a little bit of White Scar and just do all of the cloudy smoke here. And then we'll put a glaze over the top of it. Now, as we've done before, usually Lamenter's Yellow was the glaze we like to use, but that's been discontinued. So now what we're going to use is the Sigismund Yellow Clear Air Paint. So that is very similar to a glaze. So we're going to do that. It'll get the same effect. And we'll dry brush that over all of the white, and then be back here in a bit to finish it off. So this is our Plague Smoke now that we've finished with our glaze. So the next thing we're going to do is add the next coat, which will be a dry brush of some Pallid Witch Flesh, which will create another little bit of a contrast layer there. And then once that's finished, we're going to add a second glaze of Waywatcher Green, but this has also been discontinued, in which case your choice, very similar to the other one, is is the Mortarion Green Clear Air Paint, which is sort of its replacement. So either will work. I'm going to use my Waywatcher Green, but the Mortarion Green would work as well. They're pretty much the same thing from everything I've been told. So we'll do both of those now and meet back here again for the final reveal. We'll probably also do the bases and then flock it as well. So we'll see the final model in just a few minutes there. So these are Blightlord Terminators now that the Plague Smoke is finished. So with that, we're pretty much finished the model. We're going to paint the base black and then flock it, clear coat it, and we'll be back again here in a few minutes to show you what it looks like when it's all finished. So this is our Blightlord Terminators now that we've finished with the clear coating and the basing. So we're pretty happy with how they've turned out, and effectively they're the final product now. Hopefully yours turned out just as well as this. If so, please leave a like or a comment in the video, and we will probably respond. Otherwise than that, throw a subscription up if you found this video helpful. And otherwise, we'll see you at our next painting video. We'll throw some photos at the end of the stream here, just so you can see some other different angles in case there's anything you missed. And otherwise than that, we will see you at our next painting video. Thanks for watching.